Game of Thrones is widely regarded as one of the best TV shows of all time, and though no other show has taken its place, there are some great Netflix shows for its fans. Based on George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire novel series, Game of Thrones premiered on HBO in 2011 to instant success. Game of Thrones ran for 8 seasons, ending in 2019, though its final season was controversial for how bad it was. Still, Game of Thrones is one of the best TV shows of the 2010s, and while no other show has replaced it, some Netflix shows are great for everyone who enjoyed Game of Thrones. Vikings, Valhalla 3 seasons image via Netflix. Created by Jeb Stewart, Vikings, Valhalla is the sequel series to Vikings, and it's set over a century after the ending of Vikings. As such, Vikings, Valhalla follows new characters, some of them linked to those from Vikings, and just like the main show, it takes many creative liberties, so don't expect historical accuracy. The events of Vikings, Valhalla begin with the St. Brice's Day massacre, covering the beginning of the end of the Viking Age. The main characters are siblings Leif Erikson, Sam Corlett, and Freydis Eriksdotter, Frida Gustafsson, who are pagan Vikings, Harald Season, Leo Suter, who wants the throne of Norway, and his brother Olaf Haraldsson, Johannes Hauke Johannesson, both Christian Vikings. There's also King Canute, Bradley Freegard, and Queen Emma, Laura Berlin, the latter a descendant of Rollo. With the conflict between Christian and pagan beliefs as a backdrop, Vikings, Valhalla follows these characters as they battle to achieve their goals. Vikings, Valhalla is a good watch for fans of Game of Thrones thanks to its elements of historical and political drama, large-scale battles, graphic violence, suspense, and complex characters. Vikings, Valhalla is a lot shorter than Game of Thrones, but be prepared for a finale that leaves many questions. Shadow and Bone 2 seasons. Shadow and Bone is a fantasy TV series based on Leigh Bardugo's Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows novels. Shadow and Bone takes viewers into the Grishaverse, a fictional world formed by 6 nations inspired by real countries. In this world are people known as Grisha, practitioners of a unique ability known as the small science. This allows Grishas to manipulate matter at a molecular level. Shadow and Bone, then, is the story of Alina Starkov, Jessie Miley, an orphan cartographer who finds out that she's a Grisha, and even more important, she's the key to saving her world. Shadow and Bone introduces a fantasy world torn by war with magic elements that will be reminiscent of those of Game of Thrones. Shadow and Bone, however, is lighter and follows one protagonist, and despite its popularity, it was cancelled too soon. The Sandman 2 seasons. The Sandman is a fantasy drama TV series based on Neil Gaiman's comic book series. The Sandman introduces the audience to Morpheus, Tom Sturridge, the personification of dreams and one of the Seven Endless, a family of cosmic beings. In 1916, Morpheus is captured in an occult ritual, but he escapes in 2022. Now free, Morpheus sets out to reclaim his tools of power and restore order in his kingdom of the dreaming, and faces dangerous nightmares that have escaped into the world. Like Game of Thrones, The Sandman has a complex and unique fictional world, with equally complex characters, and covers mature themes. Despite Game of Thrones' fantasy elements, The Sandman is a lot more fantasy-oriented and has its own mythology, which is also a big part of its charm. The Last Kingdom 5 seasons. The Last Kingdom is a historical drama TV series based on Bernard Cornwell's historical novel series The Saxon Stories. The Last Kingdom follows Uhtred, Alexander Draymond, a Saxon boy raised by the Danes, who, now all grown up, aids King Alfred and the Kingdom of Wessex. Uhtred's hope is to retake his home of Bebbanburg, as Vikings attempt to take over England. Like Game of Thrones, The Last Kingdom has exciting large-scale battles, complex characters, political drama, and covers themes like loyalty, power, ambition, and war. Unlike Game of Thrones, however, The Last Kingdom is rooted in history, though it isn't accurate, of course, and it doesn't have fantasy elements. The Witcher on its 4th season. Before Netflix's The Witcher was released, it was believed to be the next Game of Thrones, and though it isn't, it's a great option for fans of Game of Thrones. Based on the book series of the same name by Andrzej Sapkowski, The Witcher takes the audience to a fantasy world torn by war to meet Geralt of Rivia, Henry Cavill and Liam Hemsworth, the title monster hunter. The Witcher tells not only Geralt's story but also those of Cintran Princess Ciri, Freya Allan, and Sorceress Yennefer of Vengerberg, Anya Kalautra, as their stories end up converging. Thanks to Geralt's job as a Witcher, the show features a variety of monsters and creatures. The Witcher is set in a complex fantasy world torn by war, with magic, different monsters, complex and morally ambiguous characters, political conflicts, and exciting battles. Surely, The Witcher's quality isn't at the level of Game of Thrones, but it's an interesting world that is reminiscent of it, to an extent.